Okay, so we've thought about providing feedback and we've had a bit of a conversation about it. Now what happens if we get to a point where we have to give feedback on poor performance? Okay, now what we're talking about there is, things aren't going the way we planned. We've set some objectives, we've set some targets, hasn't been hit, people aren't doing what we need them to do. All right, well, there's a few ways we need to approach that, and the first way is with caution, obviously. All right, things to bear in mind is that performance, if it's poor performance, it's not necessarily deliberate. It doesn't mean that they've gone out, and just decided that they didn't want to play. There could be a whole range of different things that might come in there that we might have to have a good look at. So it's a really bad idea to walk in and go, you didn't do this, and start getting cranky at people. What we need to do is have a conversation with people that says, okay, we haven't achieved the goal. Let's find out why, okay, and approaching them. Now, obviously, you're going to have to do your homework very carefully before you sit down, okay, because you're not entirely sure what they're going to say next. And they might have a whole range of things. They might have mitigating circumstance. Okay, there could be some sort of circumstance around them, could be environment, could be anything. Okay, because there's a whole range of things that could come out there. There could have been a miscommunication. Okay, so ideas could have been miscommunicated. Okay, so you might have not necessarily set the right information for them. There could have been a change in the role or the task. So change in their task or the job they're set out to do. It could actually be a fault in the training or learning process, or it could actually be part of the training and learning. Okay, so they might be still learning on the job and might not have got there because that hasn't been completed. Okay, so there's a whole lot of considerations there. And it also could have been part of research and development. Okay, so there could be a whole lot of factors in that actually prevented them from achieving the performance that we wanted to. Okay, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to sit down with someone and say, okay, well, look, you haven't necessarily performed where we wanted to. So we need to have a bit of a chat to you about, well, why? We need to understand there could be a whole range of factors that could go into that. And a lot of very valid reasons why they haven't performed. One of the techniques about approaching that is to start to look at, beginning the conversation. How do I begin a conversation? Find out whether it's that. Well, some people like the hamburger method. Or the sandwich when they're about to provide negative. So they start out with, here's a little bit of love, let's reinforce the position, provide the positive reinforcement. Okay, yeah, hi, look, we're here to talk about your performance. Just before we begin, I want you to understand that what we're here to do is try and uplift the performance and help you achieve your goals, etc. Very positive message. And then you can go through the negative. Okay, but despite that, at the moment, you're not meeting the objective. This is what's going on there. Can you tell me a little bit about, what happened? And that's the hard part where you're telling them bad information or the information where it hasn't gone to plan. And then the final layer of the hamburger, so if we go, a little bit of love, the next part, the news, and then a little bit of love to finish out. And the little bit of love to finish out is, okay, so how do we take this forward? How do we progress? It's very constructive, and that's the idea. Okay, so that they go in there understanding that this is not a personal attack. It's not tell them a story, and in the middle kick them in the backside. That's not the point. The idea is to say, okay, look, this is a constructive process. We're here to help. Okay, this is what's happened. Okay, great. How do we constructively move forward? Okay, so it's about constructing, not being flippant. Okay, so we start to talk about, in these cases, it's about setting the scenario very clearly. Okay, make sure that when you're talking about the performance, you're talking about how it's been measured. Okay, so these conversations at this level is about how you've observed it, how you've measured it, whatever it happens to be. It needs to be very specific. Okay, behaviours that you've seen. Okay, is what becomes in here. So what's the behaviour? What happened? And then at the end, once again, backed up with a lot of fact about how we're going to uplift, how we're going to fix, what we're going to change, etc. Okay, what we're not doing is we're not smacking people. This isn't a conversation of get into my office because I want to talk to you and yelling and screaming, because you'll find that's really counterproductive. And what's worse is other people will see it. They will see that's how you treat people, and then you can guarantee that even your best performers won't trust you anymore because they'll see the way you deal with your worst performers. Okay, so don't create that for yourself. All right. So what can you do? The person hasn't done what you needed to do. They haven't reached the objective. Things aren't going the way you want. So what are some of your options here? Or some of the options that you might start to think about is, okay, well, let's talk about a solution. Let's talk about on-the-job coaching. Okay, so maybe we need to start looking at a little bit of on-the-job coaching. The reason we might do that is because it's twofold. One, I might want to help you actually get better. I know, big surprise, but we actually want our staff to get better over time. The other thing that allows you to do is to get a coach to watch that person and work with them more closely to try and find out what's going wrong. Okay, that's going to allow you a little bit more diagnostics and help them develop. Okay, it also, the person who's doing the coaching is working on developing their leadership, their management, and their communication skills. So actually, it's a win for everybody. Okay, all three parties win: the person being coached, the coach, and you. All right, so worth doing. But it has to be a structured process. Okay, so don't just, look after Bill and, do this, or look after that person for a couple of days and pay it off. Once again, come up with a bit of a way about how we're going to approach this. When are we going to be doing the coaching? How do we want to do the coaching? What are we trying to achieve with the coaching? When's it going to occur? Okay, make sure everyone understands what's happening there. Okay, coaching is just an extension of the feedback process. Okay, it's just another layer of it. Once again, on the coaching, it's going to be pretty tight. The person who's coaching is going to be providing that continuous conversation, and that's really going to be their part in the puzzle. Okay, and it also needs to be directly relevant. Okay, it needs to be relevant to the learner. Okay, so we make sure we're targeting the performance of the problems that we see to try and understand what's going on. Don't just come up with, getting a whole bunch of stuff they don't need. Now, this same process can actually also be used for people that are high achievers. Okay, so it could be you start thinking, well, the job coaching, your supervisors might be ready to step up to management. If they're doing well, maybe we'll do that as well. Okay, because this allows them to work with someone more senior perhaps, to start building recognition, to build their skills forward, their professional development. Okay, so coaching and mentoring can actually be used as a really great tool to reinforce good behaviour. Okay, it's there to diagnose and fix underperformance and behaviours you don't like, and it can also be used at the exact same time using a slightly different twist to reward and encourage people forward. Okay, so really that's what it does. Thinking about that on the positive, reinforcing for poor performers, training, counselling, etc. Okay, it's a great learning process, and it's highly beneficial for your staff because it develops everybody. The coach, the person being coached, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so continue on. The other thing about with coaching is it also increases organisational productivity because you've always got people being observed. We're making sure the job's getting done. We're also able to have a second opinion of someone who's more senior, who might be able to have a look at what's going on in a place and identify any other issues that are actually stopping the performance. Yes, the underperformer might be underperforming, but it's the coach who might spot that the reason that's happening is because your systems aren't working, okay? Or that there's a particular problem in a certain area, or that something hasn't been communicated effectively. Okay, so it's actually good for everybody, and something to do in your business. All right. If you don't have time to observe a lot of that coaching, okay, that it might be happening at a place that's remote to you. You might have a business unit that's somewhere else. It could be a different shop or somewhere that you're not going to be there all the time. Make sure that you have a monitoring procedure. Okay, so what you want to do is sit down with the person being coached and the coach themselves and say, okay, how are we going to keep track of this coaching system? How do I, as a manager, get a hold of that information from you later? What documentation do we need to have there? Okay, how do we review this? Okay, if I'm going to see you on Monday and the next time I'm going to see you on Friday, what do we need to discuss? Okay, so you might have some sort of tick sheet. There could be an observation sheet. It's myriad. You can go insane with how many you want. Go to town. Okay, but some sort of way that you can share and compare information and save it for later so you can track progress. Okay, and that's what we're looking for: information over time. Okay, we're not going to say, "Yep, I saw you yesterday. I've tried to teach you the whole thing, and then tomorrow expect something different." Okay, it might be that incremental uplift in performance over time. They're not going to go like that. it's going to go like that, you know, and that's what they're going to continue. And we need some sort of way to check what's happening, okay? It'll give us that better picture over time rather than try and do it all at once. But, you know, the design principles, like everything else, you know, it has to be appropriate, okay? So we're talking about what we're monitoring. It has to be really, really clear so that everyone knows what to track and when to track it, and it needs to be relevant to what we're trying to achieve. If we're trying to fix sales tracking or sales activities, let's say it's about sales and activities leading to that. Don't have it about what time you turned up to work or some other weird thing, okay? Keep it really on point and really tight. Okay, and if we do that, that allows us to then provide that negative feedback. But as I say, those tools there are also the same tools we can use to encourage good behaviour, and we can put this in place to actually uplift existing performers to become even higher performers. All right, so that's just the last bit there, okay? You can use the exact same thing to push your good performers forward. All right, here's your management observation. We'll put you in with a manager. You're a supervisor or a staff member wanting to go up there. We'll check your skills every week. We'll put you in charge of a few decisions and you come up with some outcomes, and we can check that over time, and hopefully with the right training, you too can become a manager or whatever it happens to be. Okay, it's the exact same concept, same considerations about clarity, fairness, you know, and being specific to the job they're doing. All right, if you do that, you should be good. Cool.